Hi flatbedders. Are you about to tarp your first load? Are you new to flatbed and have no idea where to start? Or maybe you just want to prepare for your first tarp job. Maybe you already know how to tarp and you just want to get better at it. Hi, my name is Mario and I've been flatbedding for over 10 years now. In this video, I'm going to share with you a simple 5-step system that I've developed that has helped me in my beginning stages, and I've been using it ever since, so that you can go from this to this, even as a beginner and on your first tarp job. Hopefully it'll work well for you and it'll serve you on your flatbedding career. Make sure you wear your safety gear. In this case, if you don't need a hard hat, at least wear your safety glasses and use some work gloves so that if a bungee just snaps, it doesn't hurt your eye or your hands, or a hook flies out, or there's many things that can go wrong. Just make sure you're safe. All right, ready? So let's begin. Step number 1, set up your tarps. We're gonna start by padding everything that will rip your tarps. Any sharp edge on that load that you think is gonna shred your tarps, rip holes, don't doubt by 1 second that it won't, because wind catches up, it flaps, whatever, you're gonna stretch that tarp, and going rubbing up against that sharp edge, it's just gonna rip your tarps off and destroy them. Take care of those tarps and they will last you much longer. Now, after you pad any sharp edge that's going to rip your tarps, then you can set both tarps at both ends of that load. Okay, start with the rear and unroll it on top of the load. Once it's unrolled, then you can spread it out and let that tarp fall on both sides. Okay, make sure you have those 4-foot drop, or however long your tarp is. Let it drop on the sides and then center it so that it's even on both sides of the cargo. Okay, now the tarp should start right where that end of the cargo is. That's where the big flap should fall. Okay, so that's where you want to start unrolling. Now that it's centered, go and do the same thing with the front tarp. Now always remember wind resistance. This is why we go on the rear first, so that when you get that wind as you're going forward, it doesn't make a parachute effect on that rear tarp and it doesn't hold you up and it's not flapping all over the place. Yeah, wind is tough. If you ever leave a sharp edge, didn't notice it, you'll find out real soon down the road. It just rips your tarps up. Okay, now that you have it set up, unrolled, and on top of that load, that's the end of your setup. Let's go to step number 2. This is anchoring your tarps. This is going to fix your tarps in place so that they don't move everywhere when you're bungeeing them down. And you want to start at the end of the load on the side of that tarp. So you go to the rear, go to the shoulder of that load and anchor that corner. Anchor both corners, then go to the front of that same tarp and pull forward so that it stretches out as much as possible, and then anchor the front. After you've done this, then go to the middle of that tarp and put one last anchor right in the middle of that. Now do the same for the front tarp. Okay, remember you're always going to use 6 bungees. After you've anchored both tarps, they're not going to move. Then you go to step number 3, which is secure the flaps at both ends. Now just got to remember aerodynamics. On the front, you want to close the ring flaps, which are the small side flaps on that tarp. You want to close those up first so that the big flap covers the whole front end of that load. And if wind hits, all that's gonna do is just gonna hold it against the cargo, okay, and it's not gonna create that parachute effect. The rear end of your cargo, what you want is the big flap first, and then those rear side flaps. Now remember to always fold in on the end of the flaps so that it holds against cargo and it doesn't unfold. Make sure it's nice and snug in there when you secure it. I always use at least 3 bungees across, either on the front or the back, for those little side rain flaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so that you don't miss any future videos. Also, leave down in the comments below if you'd like me to touch on a certain aspect of flatbedding or trucking in general that I may be able to answer for you. Now that you've got the tarp set up, anchored, and now you've got the flaps secured on the front and the back, is step number 4, which is secure your sides. Okay, now starting from the front, I always set up all my bungees hook out, so the point of the hook points out and not into the tarp, so when that wind makes that little flap on your tarps, it doesn't rip it up. Okay, so I always set a bungee on each of the rings that I'm going to be using all along the side, so that when I'm actually doing it, I don't have to run back and get one or bend down every time. Now once you set that up, now you can start going from the front, start bungeeing it down. Any excess tarp, you roll it up like a burrito right inside onto the cargo, come down with the bungee and up again onto the next D-ring. Okay, now I like to use 1 bungee per D-ring all alongside, so that it's gotten the best hold on those tarps. This is just the best way that it's worked for me, and I'll show you some pictures, and however you see these pictures, that's how they got to my consignee, which is where I deliver basically. So roll up that tarp like a burrito, hold it against that cargo, come down with the bungee and back up to the D-ring all alongside the tarps on both sides. Once you're done with that, is step number 5, which is the last and final step, which is just basically double check and adjust. Okay, so check the bungee hooks that you didn't miss one or mistakenly are pointing against the tarp, so that it doesn't rip it up. Okay, also check for loose tarp. Pat that tarp down and see where it's kind of loose, and see if you can get to the next D-ring and stretch either to the front or to the back. Even if you need an extra bungee to do that, just go ahead and do it, just for the tarp not to be flapping as you're going down the road. Also check for covered winches. Now when you're doing these tarp jobs, sometimes you might leave a winch from the securement of the load and it's covered by the tarp. Make sure all the winches are uncovered so that you can adjust while on the run. On every load check, you're able to put that winch bar in there and give it a click to tighten it and adjust it. Okay, and also check for extra bungees that you might have not used. Sometimes I leave them hanging on the tarp or even on the rub rail, or just laying around. Watch out for those so you don't lose any gear. Okay,